Hello friends and potential friends. Jack from Geeky Gardens here. I'm back in the studio today trying to figure out whether I've got anything worth saying. I got up this morning looking around on my computer, my cameras, trying to figure out if I had any kind of video to post this weekend. And let's see, I've got a couple of storylines developing that would fit into my Feral Kitten Adventure series. I've been doing some upgrades in the garden. It's been nice weather this last week, so I've been out in the garden as much as I could, but really there's nothing out there worth showing. This is Speed Weeks in Daytona, so I had to get out one of my racing t-shirts for this video. That's also one of the reasons I'm inside, because it's kind of loud outside. But, well, here, let me show you. I'm continuing to pick winter tomatoes. These are the ones that I've picked in the last week that haven't made it into my belly or into the freezer yet. And I might get another BLT here before too long, too. But let's face it, how many BLT videos do you want really going to sit and watch? I've already done 2 of them. I've eaten a lot more, but that's become kind of old. So, I'm the type, I don't force my videos. If something comes along that interests me, I'll try to record it and see if I can turn it into something that other people might want to watch. But if nothing comes along, I just won't have a video. So I went out and checked the mail earlier this morning, and to my surprise, I found a package from my friend Cindy out in Missouri. She has a YouTube channel called, there it is, My Lazy Day Garden. Though I've got to admit she hasn't been posting much from the garden lately, mainly because her garden is buried in snow. But she did mention last week in a comment that she has started planting seeds for the spring. So maybe she'll get posting some more videos before too long on that channel, or she also has another channel which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But Cindy at My Lazy Day Garden, by all means go over and check her out. She's doing a lot in her backyard garden and become a pretty good friend. Now last year she sent me some seeds. I think she sent me the homestead tomato seeds, and she also sent me a few Everglades tomato seeds. Well, I planted the homesteads last year out in the front yard, and I got a bunch of seeds from them, so I'm pretty good set on those. But if you saw my last sweet potato update when I was in the lab, I kind of glanced over the tomatoes that I had sprouting, and I had planted all of the Everglade seeds that she sent me last year, and had some pretty low germination. I think at the time I only had 2 seedlings that had come up. Now since then I've had 3 or 4 more that have come up, so I've got enough to work with. But she decided to send me some more. She mentioned she was going to send me some more of these seeds, and she kind of neglected to mention that she was going to send me a bunch. So without any further ado, let's go over to the other camera and I'll show you what she sent me. Now first off, she sent me a bunch of Everglade tomato seeds. Now the thing that thrills me so much about these, the Everglade tomato is a cherry tomato type. It was specially bred to survive the Florida climate. And while I like my slicers and my BLTs, I consider cherry tomatoes to be garden candy. They very seldom make it into the house. So I'm looking forward to getting these seeds going, see if they can actually survive our spring and summer, and give me some snacks from time to time when I'm out grazing in the garden. Along with those, let me get my old fogey spectacles on. She sent me a number of what she referred to as her favorite tomatoes. So we have Tiny Tim, the Virginia sweet tomato, black cherry, black brandywine, and one called Carbon. Now those last 3 in particular I'm looking forward to growing, though I may have to wait until next fall to plant them, because I noticed with another tomato variety I grew this year, Brad's Atomic Grape, that the tomatoes come on, they're really dark purple, almost black. And I've noticed that the bugs don't get on them. Stink bugs in particular. I've been having battles with stink bugs this last year, and they tend to get on the tomatoes, and they'll take a bite and then they'll go on to another tomato and take a bite out of it. Well, they haven't been going near those Brad's Atomic Grape tomatoes, and I think it's because they don't recognize them as tomatoes. They're not green and they're not orange. They're almost black. So these last three are also dark variety tomatoes, and I want to see if they have the same effect as the others. Now, along with the tomatoes, she sent me some Ford Hook Swiss chard, some perpetual spinach Swiss chard, some amaranth Chinese multicolor spinach. I grew some amaranth a few years ago, but I never really did anything with it. It'll be interesting growing some more. And then these seeds, Armenian cucumbers. She got these in a seed swap. She wasn't sure how viable they would be, but she did know that they were supposed to be fairly well suited for my climate. So I'm looking forward to trying those out. I might actually be able to grow some cucumbers. And that wasn't enough. She also sent me some rattlesnake beans, some pink-eyed purple hull beans or peas, some New Zealand spinach, and some kabocha squash. Now, she said in her note that the kabocha squash she got from a squash she bought in the health food store. She liked it so much she saved the seeds from it, and apparently she did some research and found out that that squash also is fairly well suited to the climate around here. So between that and the Armenian cucumbers, I might actually be able to get some fruit out of them. And if you've watched any of my gardening tours, you know I struggle with all of those things. Squash, zucchini, pumpkins. I can't get any of them to grow down here. So I'm hoping that these seeds that Cindy sent me are gonna help me break that. Now, I mentioned that she also has another YouTube channel, which she started last year, and that is the My Simple Living Journey. She has decided to kind of test the waters and check out the van life genre. She bought herself a van and she's converted it to a camper van, and she's been spending quite a bit of time recently, mostly in her general area, just going out camping and spending a few days here and there and just enjoying nature. Well, what she doesn't know, and what probably a lot of people don't know, is that I also have a kind of an affinity for the van life. You see, back in the late 70s, I think it was around 1976, while I was still in the Navy, I was driving around Jacksonville one afternoon and rode past this little used car lot, and back in the corner of that car lot was an old truck with a little sign on the windshield that said, "Look." Now, I can't help myself. I had to turn around and go back and look at it. And while I was looking at it, I climbed up into the van, and when I stood up, my head did not hit the ceiling. Now, you have to understand, that's a big thing. I'm 6'4", and any van that I can stand up in without hitting my head on the ceiling, that's the van for me. I bought that truck without even taking it for a test drive, mainly because I didn't really care what the motor and things were like. It had an old 6-cylinder motor and a 3-speed transmission in it, slow as molasses, weighed almost 6,000 pounds. It was solid steel, let me tell you. But I didn't really care about all that because I had plans. While I was still in the Navy, I bought a 65 Ford Fairlane. I took it over to the hobby shop on base, and I ripped the drivetrain out of it. I mean, I kept the radiator, the motor, the transmission, the drive shaft. I think I saved the gas tank, and I even used a torch to cut the cross member out that the motor mounts were mounted on. And I loaded all of that stuff into the back of that old bread truck, and when I got out of the Navy, I hauled it all down to Daytona and spent the next 6 months putting it all together. And worked out well, because I wound up living in that truck for the next three and a half years. You see, in 1970s, Vietnam era GI Bill was paying $301 a month. and I had decided I'm going to school. I mean, really, that was my goal from the time I joined the Navy. So $301 a month. Out of that, I was supposed to pay my tuition, fees, my book, all my living expenses. And quite simply, I couldn't have done it without that old truck. But I did. I graduated, and I wish I still had that truck, because van life is kind of genetics to me. Before the pandemic hit, my mother was living in a camper van out in Oregon, traveling around whenever she felt like it, staying wherever she felt like. Now, when the pandemic hit, she moved into a place with my little sister, and I'm sure she's just itching to hit the road again. I've got a nephew that's running around the country right now, living in an old box truck that he converted to a motorhome. But really, the highlight of Fred, that's the name of the bread truck, incidentally, Frederick J. Fudpucker. Yeah, I'm a child of the 60s, what can I say? Fred was built in 1954. He was a 1954 Ford Vanette, little 6-cylinder motor. But the significance was, I was also made in 1954. So he was the same age as I am. Or he would be if he was still around. I wish I still had him. So that made him kind of special. And we got along pretty well, and he got me through college. Now, 1954, I just turned 68 about a week and a half ago. So we won't go into what that means for my mother, but the way I put it, she's 21 with a few years experience, and I bet she's just itching to get back on the road. So if you get a chance, by all means, go check out both of Cindy's channels. And heck, I may even put a link to my nephew's channel in here, although I'm not really sure if he wants the YouTube world to know that we're related, but I'll take a chance on that. So go check his channel out as well, and tell him Uncle Jack sent you. I thank Cindy very much for the seeds. I'm gonna have to expand my garden because I don't have nearly enough space now, but that's a good excuse to expand the garden, and I'll take every excuse I can get. And I'll see you next time.